Welcome to the Wellness Witches Whimsy Podcast, your go-to sanctuary where magic meets mindfulness and holistic health gets real.
Join us, your hosts, Shade and Vanessa, as we dive deep into the realms of real life, trauma healing, whole foods, and the profound connection between mind, body, and soul.
If you can tell, if you're watching us, we have a special guest today, Turbo. He's like Aunt.
Yeah.
There's our beautiful friend Leah is joining us from the outside, and she's eating, so he's going to continue to look at her with those beautiful puppy eyes. But our special friend Kira is for all of our local listeners in Reedsburg. She does an excellent job taking care of our animal children and grooming them. There he is. Yeah, so he's a big old baby.
Now.
So if you're listening and you hear some whining, maybe a bark or two, a husky professing his undying love and devotion, that's why. So how are you doing today, Shade?
I'm good. I'm happy we're back at it. You know, there's those days, those moments, those times where it's like, this is just not going to work. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And like, when we started, it was a good idea. We had this idea every Monday, this is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But life happens.
Yeah.
Sickness, kiddos, us just like, today's not the day. That was yesterday. And you're like, I'm just mentally not here. And I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
Like, it feels good to finally acknowledge that and move forward and take the breaks.
I agree. Yeah. Because initially I was having a little bit of anxiety because over the weekend we were supposed to record and then we didn't. And then Monday we were going to record and then we didn't. And then yesterday we're like, okay, at 1:00 we're going to get it done. And I looked at Jade and I was like, I can't. I literally can't.
Yeah.
But then this morning, everything, the energy in our room, the energy between the both of us, everything actually feels like today was the day that we were meant to record because we're feeling good.
Yeah. And, you get that. I feel that almost guilt a little bit. Like, people are going to be so upset. We promised this. This is what we said we're going to do. But nobody's mad at us.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just like, it was nice if you people when are you recording? It's like, that's nice to hear. Actually, people are excited to listen, and nobody's going to be upset that it's not on Monday at this time.
Yeah. And we'll be able to get into a better groove of things
I
too.
think so.
I think we have a lot of irons in the fire. We are doing a lot of things all at one time. We're both expanding and growing our health coaching businesses. We are growing and expanding the building that we're in and all of the healing. We have collectively as this beautiful unit been even more involved with supporting everybody else in their healing journey. And then we have our kiddos who are supporting through school and our significant others who are supporting in their life stuff, and we're all supporting each other. And I think it's just been a whole lot.
Yes.
And so I think that the most beautiful part about all of this is okay, we do realize that we probably need to have a couple of podcasts in our pocket.
Yes. I was thinking that too.
At least two where we can just be oh, today's not the week for it. Let's just send this out into the podcast universe. So then that way we're not okay, really, we have to figure out what we're doing. So a great learning process. But I think more so than anything, what makes this a more profound and beautiful moment is that our listeners get to hear that all of the stuff that we've been saying so far, we genuinely practice and implement into our own lives.
Yes.
Because we could have pushed through on Monday. Mm-hmm. We could have pushed through yesterday or over the weekend and gotten a podcast out, but it would definitely have not been the quality that we should be giving to our listeners, or like the same energy, because I think that there's something to be said too when you just hurry up and do a task or you do something begrudgingly. Not only is it not your best work, but it's like the energy and the intention that you're putting into whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have like the energy of like anxiety or busyness or unfocused energy going into something as beautiful as like we made this podcast to help support people.
Yeah. And we're enjoying it. Like you said, I don't want to be rushed. That's something I'm not going to enjoy. And I'm sure you would be able to tell.
Oh, 100%. Because, well, for sure, like Monday, we were basket cases anyways.
I think Monday, if we can get it done on the weekend, Monday's kind of that day, like everybody is like
together,
ready to get back into that week routine. And
it was the full moon.
Oh, yes.
So I think that the full moon, like, definitely kind of like threw everybody into a little bit of like a lower energy vibration.
I've been hearing that a lot. A lot of people are just like, I'm just exhausted. Just not, the energy is just not here.
Right.
But this is the time that we should be slowing down more and taking these steps back.
Yeah,
and taking the time for ourselves.
And I think like the moon just went, hey,
you
guys aren't listening to me.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be slowing down.
Oh.
And we're back.
We're back. We had a Wi-Fi connection, but that's okay. Because we're going to put the hard line in and then we'll be just fine.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my man is a technician because computer things.
Ugh. And we hate computer things. The internet is not her friend.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I always say it's a love-hate relationship. And a lot of people like at the store or anything like that, it's like, we love it when it's working.
Exactly.
But when there's any problems, I'm like, let's go back to paper. Let's go back to pen and paper and write everything down.
Yeah.
I still have that nostalgic with pen and paper. I struggle. I've been better with like my calendar on my phone because we always have our phones in our pocket, in our hand next to us. We've got the great Google Calendar, or I don't know what Apple's is. Does Apple have a special calendar?
I think it's just Apple Calendar. Whatever. That's okay. We're not trying to be haters on Apple. I do. I'm like,
I am.
Android.
I've always been a hater on the Apple.
Same.
Well, it's like, geez, you got to get the phone, then you got to get the same.
All the same
things. The
compatibility devices like the AirPods, the specific chargers, the literally everything.
But writing, I have a paper calendar. I love the new year, getting a new calendar. I like to color code in my book to hopefully match what my Google Calendar looks like. It just feels good, and I feel like I retain my schedule a little more of like, because I actually physically wrote it.
Yeah.
Realistically, I don't have the calendar with me all the time.
Right.
I've got it in my phone. I make sure that but I think there's something with that connection of like going back to writing things down.
Yeah, because you're putting a lot more intentionality into it. Like your body's energy is being like put into the pencil, into the pen, into those beautiful strokes and the way that you write. And like there's a lot more of I'm slowing down and I'm thinking about what I'm putting in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on our phones we're just like
yeah.
And then we're done. Yeah, for sure.
With the journaling like that, that's something I speak with my clients about, and I try to do myself too, is either in the morning or at night, just even a sentence. Like if today that's like all you could get out, even just a sentence of how you're feeling or how your day was about, anything. And it just, like you said, it just puts your energy into that. I think it helps release some things that we hold on to.
Oh yeah, for sure. I always tell, so like, journaling is always like a really mixed bag of things, right? Because like for my clients, like I'll tell them like journaling is like this beautiful and like profound thing. If it wasn't rooted in like a trauma response from when you're a child. So like a lot of times people are like, I don't know why I can't get into journaling. Every time I think about it, every time I try, I have this anxiety over it or this like intense desire not to do it. One of my first questions always is, well, when you were young, did you have a journal and did somebody read that journal? And what was the ramifications of somebody reading it? Right? I know.
Like, I've never thought of that.
Of journaling being like a trauma response.
To me, like me and Allie, one thing kind of like journaling, like homework. So like my kid's in first grade and I already like, I tell him like the other school we switched or whatever, they gave homework and I don't, because that's a trauma response for me and I know it triggers me and then I'm triggered in front of him and then it's just gonna like trickle down.
Like this cascade effect. Yeah. Yeah. So like those kind of moments. So like if journaling isn't something that you can do because you do have a trauma response to it, I tell people to record themselves. I say record yourself on your cell phone. You don't have to be on camera. You can just have your voice. Say whatever it is that happened throughout the day. Say whatever it is that's like on your mind right now that you're like needing to let go of and release. And one or two things is going to happen. Either you're going to save it and listen to it at a different time so that you can reprocess your feelings in a different light, or you're going to say all of it at that time. You're going to feel better immediately because it was released and then you're going to delete it. Okay. So whatever you need to do, but the key is to not have it inside of you anymore, right? In whatever capacity it's going to come out, just it needs to be. And there's something super therapeutic about that. And it's about like habit forming too. Yeah. Yeah. I always tell people
I never thought about that journal, but that is so true because a lot of people, I never did that as a kid.
Yeah.
But if I had a journal and somebody read it, I know how that would feel.
Yeah. And like when I was
distrust.
Oh yeah. Because when I was young, did you pass notes back and forth in school?
Yes.
Okay. So like for me, like I knew that my home environment wasn't conducive to me having a diary. Yes. I knew as a child that if I were to put my feelings down on paper and my parents were to see it, there would be massive repercussions. And the anxiety over even just the idea that we could get caught was like so profound to me that there was no chance. Yes. But what I did do for whatever reason is when I was in school, it was so fine for me to pass notes back and forth to my friends. And that would be the time that I would release whatever needed to be released. Well, then what would happen is we would get caught. And like one time I had an entire folder that my friend and I, we thought we were so clever. And shout out to Brittany if you're listening, because I know that she does. She's been my childhood friend since I was in like 5th grade, and she lives in Georgia and whatever. We haven't seen each other since I moved away in 5th grade. Yeah, I guess we were friends like from 3rd grade on, whatever it was. Anyways, we thought we were so clever. Like we were the badass girls of our class, like the little rebels. We would wear matching blue lipstick together. Aww. And it was blue sparkly lipstick. It looked freaking atrocious. I can like just like remember. But anyway, so we'd wear this blue lipstick and we had a folder and we thought we were so clever because all of our notes would go in the folder and we would pass back and forth the folder to each other. And so one day our teacher finally caught on. Yeah. She's like, what the heck are these girls doing passing back and forth this purple folder?
Yeah.
And then she got it and it was like an entire folder full of notes.
You guys kept the evidence.
We kept all of the evidence because we were just silly girls.
I just like a couple years ago got rid of the letters that I had from middle school. I had a shoebox.
Same.
I had a shoebox with all the letters mostly from girlfriends and then the boyfriend that I had all through high school. You know, we were going to get married and
live happily ever after.
Yeah. All that. And the note, I remember getting caught one time because everybody was doing it in our class and the teacher's like, the next note, I'm going to read it in front of the class. And I was so scared. I ripped it up and like put some of it in my mouth. And then I got sent to the office and it's the first time I was like ever in trouble and I didn't know where to go and I just like cried walking all of it. That's never made it to the office. I just like cried like walking around. I'm like, it was a good moment.
It was. I was like the really crazily obsessed like boy crazy girl. So like all of those notes were like all the ones that we thought that were hot and like we ended up getting in-school suspension. Like, I don't know. I mean, I know that they do still do that in school, but it's not as prominent of like a punishment that they did. But like, so I just remember like the principal being like, well, you know, your girl's pretty wild. She's a so boy crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And it's so funny because I don't know, like every single year for conferences, every teacher said the same thing to my mother. Like, she just talks too much. She's boy crazy and she talks too much.
I'm like, what do we do with this?
Yeah. And you know what? Look at me now. That's what I do. My whole freaking life is talking now. Talk to clients, talk to my kids, talk to people out in the beautiful podcast universe. Yeah. I'm talking on stage. Yeah. I just like, now it's just in a different capacity. It's all for the better good of humanity versus my silly, selfish desires.
But, and then too, the school of, you know, that generation.
Yeah.
You're to be seen, not to be heard. And like, that goes for like school. Just kind of a struggle with that. Like, it's a lot for the kids.
It is. Our children are not meant to sit behind a desk for humans in general aren't meant to be like at a desk for 8 hours and being quiet. And I mean, even just the notion of us trying to instill so much education into an adolescent brain for such a long length of time and expecting that these little beings are going to stay perfectly quiet, perfectly like placed, and that there aren't going to be like ramifications to that. And then like they wonder like, oh my gosh, why are these children so wild? Well, besides the fact that we're making them sit for long periods of time, which was never meant for a child, but then we're putting crap food in them through the school lunch program. And there's additives and dyes and sugar and nothing nutritious about any of their food. And then they're like drinking sugary milk all day long. Then we have milk breaks. And I mean, man, when I think about like the big picture of like why our children go wild when they get home, that's why. And like there should always be a time of like decompression. Like all my kids, I don't care if they have homework, I don't care what they have to do, decompress.
Yeah. I can see like Edric, my son, when we leave school, you know, it's that I think it's a habit for every parent. You're like, how was your day? What happened? He never wants to answer. And I'm like, I've come to this agreement. I'm totally okay with it. We just sit in silence.
Yeah.
I pick him up
need it.
and we just sit in silence. The other day when we went to your house, it's a 45-minute drive. I asked him, it's so long. It takes 3 hours. I'm like, it takes about 1. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to listen to music? Do you want to talk? What do you want to do? And then he didn't answer. So I was like, oh, you just want to be quiet. And we sat in silence for 35 minutes. And like, he looked out the window, you know, and I bet you so many more kids could do that, but it's just not presented to them.
Well, and what do you have? What happens when you get in the car? The radio goes on. There's music playing. Yeah. So like, there's never like a state of just like quiet contentment. And like you cultivated that safe environment to be like, we don't have to talk. We don't have to listen to music. We don't have to fill that space. We can just exist together. Yeah. And like, I think a lot of times like parents have like well intentions to like say like, how did your day in school go?
Right. Yeah.
I don't ask that with my kids unless they go, oh mom, you'll never believe what happened today. But like, I don't have to try and find that information for my kids anymore. They will willingly give it to me. Yes. Because I've given them the space to come in the door. I mean, like I've had it where and I have 6 kids. I have had it where all 6 kids have gone into my car and they have been quiet collectively. And you can just tell they're exhausted. Yeah. They don't want to talk. They don't want to think. They just want to be. And I just like leave that space. And then we'll go into the house. All my kids will gravitate towards their spaces, and then it'll be like a little trickle effect. A little bit, someone will come out, share their time, another person will come out, share their time, and then it's more of like a, you know, when you're ready kind of situation.
Thing. Yeah, and I think that's even part of us, like where you said that space where the parent just is like, oh, how's your day? I think that's reflects back on our childhood where maybe we didn't have that. So it's like, we're always trying to be better.
Yeah.
And
wanting to be like more than what our parents
were. And I heard, and I try to say this to myself, our parents did the best they could with what they had.
Absolutely.
And who knows if we were in that same situation. And you think of the trauma from their parents to trickling down, like our generation has become that more strong. Like our parents were that like, okay, we're starting to fight back a little bit.
Right.
Like some things need to happen. Like they're starting to get a voice. Women were getting a voice. Like things
things were progressing differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now our generation, I feel, is like, we got to change things.
Everything. We want everything to be changed.
Yes, we got to change it all.
We want to be the polar opposite. Yeah. But then, okay, so here's the thing. Like, society as a whole did that, right? Because now we're living in 2025, and like everything is like being normal is now abnormal, and being abnormal is the new normal, and not being confined to like anything that would have in the past been considered like structure or normal or the way that things needed to be, because everything was in black and white. There was no gray area for anything at all. And now here we are, and we're like, everything is gray. Yeah. And so now we've like completely gone to the opposite end of the spectrum, which in some things is like fantastic, because my goodness, like the freedom that is allotted with that. But then for other things, it's like, no.
Yeah.
It can be black and white.
Yeah.
And then we can have gray. And there needs to be like a shift in like, what do we truly want out of these gray areas, right? Like, why are we saying that this is gray, and what can come out of it? And like, what is going to be fruitful about the experiences that we're having now? And I just like, again, it's like us wanting to do everything to the total opposite of like how we were raised, or the total opposite of how they were raised. And there's beauty in that, but then also we have to realize how like condemning that is. Yes. We have to realize at what level is enough too much, like when is it? And I just think humans, like, we just naturally gravitate towards like not being able to just be like,
okay, yeah, just
we
being
don't know
content.
How to say,
okay, yeah, we don't know how to be content with what we have.
Yeah, for sure.
Things are beautiful.
Yeah, and there's like so much beauty around us that if we were just like quiet enough to like recognize or like realize that we don't have to have the answers for everything. That we don't have to raise our kids in a particular way because our parents didn't raise us one way, or because they did raise us this way or whatever. And like just remembering that like everybody truly is like super unique, and what works for one person isn't. Like we could be talking about like, oh, this is what we do for our kids. That's not to say that that's
going to work for your kids. Yeah.
Right. Or like at my house, like one of our favorite things to do is when we're at the dinner table, that's our time to be together. So there's no electronics at the dinner table. There's no TV. There's literally nothing. And we go around and everybody says one good thing that happened in their day, one thing that was their least favorite thing that happened in their day, and one thing that they learned. And us as adults, we do it too. So I'll talk about my day so that my kids aren't like, like, well,
why do we?
Yeah, we are sharing, but like they don't share, and my kids are genuinely interested. Like, what did you do today at the Blue Heron Collective, or like what did you do at the gym, or whatever. To be excited, to show them that you can be passionate about something like outside of your family or outside of like what's to be expected is also really amazing. So we do that, but that might not work for the next family. That might not be something that your child takes value in. But I do as many things as possible to figure out what my children do take value in, and then I leave the rest behind. Yeah. So we just have to figure out like what is it? Yeah. What do they want, or what do you want? Or
I like that too. We're at the table, no phones, and my son, I don't get at him like, you don't have to sit. He's kind of like busy-bodied. If you leave the table, come back. If you're standing at the table, I don't mind. Like if you're just here, present when we are, because dinner's the one time that we're all there together at the same time. Yeah. And I kind of say that too, where I'm more like, what's something good? What's something bad that happened? What's something that made you laugh? Something like that.
Well, and it teaches them too to reflect differently about their day. Because I have one little one who she always focuses on like the negative, like holy bananas. Like if you ask her, like just a generalization, how did your day go at school? It was terrible. I was alone all day long. I didn't talk to anybody. None of my friends wanted to be around me. They all thought I was annoying. And then I'm like, that's really terrible. So then I'd ask my nephew, like, hey, did you notice, you know, I'm not gonna say my little girl's name out loud. Did you notice that she was having a rough day today? And he was like, oh, there was like this moment where she was kind of alone for a little bit. I think one of her friends got into a fight, but then they were fine and everybody was playing. And then I reached out to her teacher and said, hey, did you notice so-and-so? Like, has she been having a harder time? And she was like, no, she's so wonderful and she gets along with everybody and she's constantly talking. So like she just hyper fixated on that one moment of bad. So like once I realized that was what was happening to her, then I was asking her more intentional questions to bring out like more positive things that were happening throughout her day. And then as I was doing that, then she was like, oh yeah, and then this happened and then this happened. So then it went from like, oh, it was this terrible, awful day to, oh, here are all of these wonderful things that happened. I was like, oh, so you just had a little bit of a rough moment. But dude, as adults, when we have a couple of rough hours, our day's gone. We're in a bad mood, right? And that like trickles into like the rest of our day. Yeah. And so like even just like what a good reminder it is for us to be like, nope, it wasn't a bad day. It was a bad moment.
I like that.
I can control. Yeah. I can control how I react from this point forward or during whatever happens. Because we forget that we have control over our emotions.
That's something I need to say to my mother. I like don't like to stay mad. Yeah. Kind of like I'm mad for like 5 minutes and then it bothers me more. I'm more the like want everybody to be happy and want everybody like, but we have to be uncomfortable sometimes. Right. It has to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I like what you said of you're the one that is in power of how you're gonna feel.
Yeah. And I know it's like easier said than done, right? We can say that, but like, okay, so then what do you do to get out of it?
Breathe.
Yeah, breathe for sure. Breathe. Like, or talk it out, or shake it out, or work it out, or run it off.
Oh, I did this one, the scream. Like, if you are in a safe place where people aren't gonna wonder if you are
need to be mentally in some place.
Mentally, or if you are physically hurt.
Yeah.
But if you're having a rough day, scream once in your car as loud as you can or anywhere that
or in nature.
It's really powerful.
It is because you don't have to be silent.
No.
You just let it out. I also do that. I mean, I have literally had a time frame like, I think it was like a couple months ago before we all like really like got together and talked. And I like went to the gym and I was like, I'm going to work it out. This is it. Like, it's going to come all of my feelings are going to come out. Well, the gym wasn't enough. And it was storming so hard that day. It was raining super hard. And I was driving through the country roads and I was just like shaking and crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I like can't release all of these really hard emotions. I felt so sick to my stomach. And I literally parked my car on a country road. I got out of my car in the pouring rain, went out to the middle of this field, like, and just started screaming. And then, like, I screamed so hard that, like, I just went down, I laid on the ground, and then, like, I got done, and I just, like, started laughing because I was like, you're freaking crazy, bro. Like, that's what I needed. But then I was fine. And I was like, oh man, like I really had some built up stuff that I needed to let go of. And then I got to be like, oh, the rain feels amazing. And I'm out in nature and I just got to like go in the middle of the nowhere and scream. And like, I was just so thankful for like the experience. But like, you know, how many times have we seen a toddler like throw a temper tantrum and then like get up and be totally fine? Because all of that negativity was released.
Yeah, and you just don't even think, like, when you say it like that, that clicks on, that makes sense. But, like, in the moment, that's, your reaction is not that.
Right. Well, and we're adults.
I think
so
that's slowing our
tantrums.
Yeah. Well.
Right, but we can. Yeah.
We can, and it's all about, like you said, you're doing it in a safe environment.
In a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hurting anybody else.
It's not hurting you. It's not hurting anybody else. And like you said, you laughed after. And like I kind of do that too, because then it's just like, yeah, slowing down, taking that time. You slowed down and took the time and did what your body needed. And then you're kind of like, oh yeah, it's a little silly, but that's what I really needed.
Yeah, yeah. And then it just made me feel so much better. And we just need like more ways and opportunities. And sometimes screaming doesn't help. So like for me, I'm a really see like we're these beautiful like people who help other people heal, right? But we can still admit when we don't have everything figured out. I hold on. Well, and actually I'll say this. I'm really good at letting go of my anger and frustration with everybody, but like the one person who gets the brunt of it is my husband. My poor husband, he's like spectacular. But one of the things that I noticed that is just like a regular and reoccurring trigger for me is that guys and I have a hard time because I've never had a male who has come into my life who has been a safe space. I've never had a male who I have wholeheartedly loved and believed loved me back without any conditions, without any like, oh, he only loves me because he wants me for my body. Oh, he only loves me because he has to love me, or whatever the case is. And my husband is literally the very first male that I have ever felt so safe with. Like, I don't have a father that I've ever felt that way with. So, like, he's kind of been like everything that I never had. And then, like, because he makes me feel so safe and because he makes me feel so loved, sometimes I like lash out as a child would do with their parent because they know intrinsically that they are safe. That's what he does for me. So it's like this incredibly beautiful thing. And like I tell him as often as I possibly can, like, thank you so much for being my safe space. But when him and I get into an argument, I immediately like want to like revert to like, I'm angry at you. I don't want to not be angry at you. And so like in those moments when I know, like I'll literally tell him, like, I don't know how to not be angry at you. I understand that I need to not be angry, but I'm angry.
Yeah.
So like we then did a sound healing session. And like I was like, something has to give. So like when I get into those modes, I figure out what I need. So the one time I was upset with him, we wrote out all of our expectations of each other and like what has been bothering us. We wrote it all down on a piece of paper. He did it, I did it. And then together we took the candle, we burned the papers, and then like we put our hand on each other's chest and like we co-regulated our breathing together. And then like everything fell away and it was like spectacular. It was so amazing. But like sometimes that doesn't work. And like, so then we did something like sound healing. And then like my intention through the entire sound healing session was I just want to release the anger and disappointment that I feel towards my husband. I know that like I can't control his emotions, he can't control my emotions, but we can control how we're reacting to the situation right now. So like I did my breath work through sound healing, put that intention out there, and then I naturally like went, oh, I just want to be by him. And then I like laid my head on his chest and then we were all good again. But like sometimes like it just takes like not one thing is gonna work all of the time. So you have to figure out how it is. And just having like the open and honest communication.
Having that openness
is huge too.
Huge, and communicating.
Right. Because anybody, and it's not just significant.
And I think it's hard, like you said, like just to even communicate, like I have a hard time communicating my feelings. So if I can't communicate them even to myself, to express them to somebody else is difficult. But like you said, if we can find these other avenues that you don't have to necessarily talk about, I'm feeling this way, like, oh, let's do, some sound, some singing bowls, some sound bath meditation, or Reiki, or massage, or sauna, or journaling, just whatever, float pods.
I mean, really,
just anything that works for you.
That's going to be what makes a difference, though. And sometimes, like, communication doesn't have to be in the form of like verbal communication or written communication. Just simply like being in someone's presence and just saying like, I don't know what's wrong, but I feel sad or I feel upset. I just need to sit with you. Or we just need to go do this. Like even just communicating that you don't know how to express it is good enough.
I know. I'm always Eric will be like, what? And I'm like, nothing. Just hug me and let me cry.
Yeah. But that is
like I don't know, but I just want to cry. Yeah. And hug me. Don't ask me questions.
Yeah. And guys are always like that. They want to be able to fix it. They want to be able to protect you, but like giving them the ability to recognize that all they need to do in the moment is to hug you and to like not try and fix it. That is fixing it. Yeah. Well, it's getting close to Valentine's Day, so we could do a whole relationship series or whatever, because like that's like another big thing. A lot of times that people who experience like wanting to do something more with their health journeys are like, oh, I'm releasing the weight, or I'm releasing my autoimmune, or I'm releasing my unhealth, and I'm doing great spiritually, I'm doing great emotionally, but then you have like this relationship that's like, it could be doing better, or oh, it's really not great, or there's something missing. Like making sure that you're cultivating the appropriate relationships in your life is just as important as your physical body is, as your spiritual body is, as your emotional body is, and making sure that you have the right people in place. Yes. Because sometimes we have people in our lives that we believe we have to have in our lives, and that's not necessarily the case either. Mm-hmm. So like making sure that you take stock of the people that are in your life. When you think about someone, do you have more positive experiences with them or negative experiences with them? And why do those negative experiences happen? Is it because of them? Is it because of you? Is it because of the situation? And how can you release that person out of your life? It may be that you simply cannot. So then how do you release your expectations? Or how do you release your emotions that are tied to that person? Or, like how can you protect yourself well enough and create a boundary that you don't have to think about how to protect yourself? Like all of these different things like that you can do to ensure that all of the relationships and the people around you serve your higher purpose too. Yeah. Okay. I know. I kind of tangented it for a little bit, but that's okay.
No, that's what's so beautiful about this. I'm happy we started this podcast.
Yeah, me too. I am. So make sure you guys are sharing and subscribing. We would really greatly appreciate it. We did a contest over Facebook and social media for people to subscribe, like, share, all of the things. We had we ended up picking a winner, and she got a free health coaching session out of it, a breathwork session, and some tea on us. So we'll do more contests, so stay tuned, look out for that. We'll do more like series coming up. If you guys have things that you want to talk about, message us, email us, comment on YouTube or on Spotify. We're here for it. Bye.
Thank you for holding space with us. This marks the end of another enchanting journey on the Wellness Witches Whimsy podcast. We hope today's episode has sprinkled a little magic on your day and empowered you with the insights to elevate your wellness journey, mind, body, and soul.
Remember, the path to well-being is both an ancient art and science, a blend of ancient wisdom and modern knowledge. So keep your wands ready and your potions brewing until we meet again. May your days be filled with health, happiness, and a touch of whimsy until our paths cross again in the realm of wellness and wonder.
Please note that the content provided in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
Always seek the advice of your physician with any changes you want to implement. The views expressed by the hosts and their guests are their own and should not be considered replacement medical advice.